Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called The Heroine Had an Affair with My Fiance. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! Long ago, back when an evil dragon was terrorizing the Empire, a group of warriors were able to subdue it with much effort. However, before it succumbs to death, the dragon cursed the warriors' leader along with the Empire's first emperor. Centuries later, the Crown Prince is considered the most powerful person in the history of the Empire. Unfortunately, the curse upon his bloodline manifested in him, and he turned into a hideous creature upon his coming of age. When all his hope is almost lost, a person appears before him, Tyrell Puritina. She, the heroine of the novel, The Evil Dragon Doesn't Bite, is the only person capable of dispelling the curse and saving the prince using her holy purification power. At present, Tyrell sits before Ciela, confessing that she has a lover. Ciela concludes that since the heroine has fallen in love, this means that the original story is beginning its course. This means that she'll die soon. You see, Ciela is engaged with Duval Esset, the villain in the novel. In the story, he harassed Tyrell until the Crown Prince put him to death. Unfortunately, as his wife, the original Ciela was dragged along with him to the guillotine simply because they were married. Why did she have to transmigrate into poor Ciela Laverin's body? She is now at risk of suffering her fate too. In order to try to save herself, Ciela rescues the female lead from the slums she was from. She befriends her and helps her enter society as a proper lady. All she has to do is break off her engagement with Duval. Tyrell is once again calling her attention, so Ciela asks her who her lover is. At first, the girl is hesitant, stating that Ciela will not like the man she loves. After some coaxing, she reveals that instead of the Crown Prince, Tyrell's lover is Duval himself. What kind of friend steals her friend's fiancé? Honestly, I expected more from this supposed female lead. To say that Ciela is shocked is an understatement. Tyrell, to her credit, is apologetic, but then she asks her to break up with Duval for her sake. I mean, I think that Duval is a total jerk, but the audacity of this woman. Ciela can't believe that the heroine has fallen in love with her trash of a fiancé. Right then, Duval enters the room harshly, and Tyrell instantly goes to embrace him out of distress. The guy then looks at Ciela as if she is at fault. How can he look like that when they are the ones having an affair? His shamelessness is next level. Duval then announces that he wants to break off their engagement. Meanwhile, Tyrell still insists that they remain friends. Ciela, on the other hand, can't understand the crazy situation she is suddenly in. That night, Ciela is unable to fall asleep, recalling the distressing events earlier. She thought that getting close to Tyrell might help her avoid execution, but she did not expect this twist at all. Why are all the men around her cheaters? She has experienced a similar situation back in her own world when her partner shamelessly cheated on her. Unexpectedly, a letter appears on her desk. Turns out it's from the Crown Prince asking for her help with his engagement. She has no choice but to tell him the truth, informing him that his prospective fiancé is currently involved with her fiancé. The enchanted letter instantly reveals a reply, telling her that the palace is now discussing the engagement. She is now even more confused because everyone's giving her different stories. Duval and Tyrell want to be engaged with each other, but then the palace now insists on pushing through with the engagement. Why don't they discuss this among themselves instead? Ciela refuses to put up with this and is treated like a fool. So she writes a letter to the Crown Prince telling him to have an affair with her to get back on their cheating fiancés. After all, since everyone is allowed to be wild, then why can't she? She regrets her decision just a week after writing the letter. The prince is yet to give a reply, and now she fears that she'll get arrested for lèse-majesté, aka offending the sovereign power any time now. Poor Ciela. But then again, people just don't straight out ask someone to have an affair with them. She has a full-blown breakdown because of her recklessness. Since she did not have a proper meal due to her ever-growing problems, May, her loyal maid, is worried about her. She sheds tears for her, assuming that her miss is distraught because of Duval and Tyrell's treachery. Ciela tries to calm her down, but the maid is feeling vindictive on her behalf. May declares that she has found a way to annihilate those two. She shows her the emblem of the Ciel Love Manipulation Guide, an organization that exposes affairs. She drags Ciela to a shady part of town to meet with the so-called leader of the guild. The master enthusiastically greets them with bright smiles. However, he insists that only the client gets to enter. When they enter, it is revealed that Ciela is the true master of the guild, and she is not the least bit happy that the existence of her organization has been leaked far and wide. Ciela reprimands later her business partner for expanding the business without her permission. He reasons that the income is too lucrative, which is why he did it. He is basically sprawled on the ground just to ask for her forgiveness. He even tells her how unfair she is. After all, he did decorate the place using the commission money from the expansion. However, she makes it clear that the only reason she has created this guild is so she can find evidence that Duval is cheating on her and use it to break up with him. Unfortunately, the guild is having a hard time because Duval is a slimy cheater who hides his affair quite skillfully. Even though there are rumors, it is not enough to break up their engagement. But then again, Duval is the one who's asking to cancel the engagement now, so finding evidence is probably not necessary anymore. Still, she wants Later to look for them just to be sure. Later then informs her that a guest has been coming to the guild, and this person is aware that he is not the true master. The mysterious person insists on meeting with her, claiming that someone has asked him to have a revenge affair with her. He has something to ask about that matter. At this point, Ciela begins speculating that this person might be the Crown Prince. After all, what are the odds that someone has also suggested a revenge affair to someone else? But then she convinces herself that the Crown Prince would never set foot in a place like this. She decides to meet this person, but not without proper precautions. She uses a transformation artifact as well as a mask, so her voice and appearance will be unrecognizable. The first thing she notes when she opens the door is the distinctive scent of roses. The second thing is the gorgeous appearance of the man who comes to see her. Even with a mask, the guy definitely stands out, especially because of his golden eyes. The man then insists that she remove her mask. Taking offense, Ciela threatens to leave, but the man stops her. He apologizes, saying that he merely wants to confirm her identity. The man then reveals the reason he is there, pretending that he is asking for a friend. As the man speaks of his friend's situation, the more suspicious Ciela is that it is her own story. This can only mean that this man is the Crown Prince. He is here to ask for advice because of the letter she sent. The prince then tells her that his friend doesn't actually have a fiancé. When she hears this, she realizes that the person before her is not the prince, for she is pretty sure that the Crown Prince is engaged with Tyrael. She calms down and listens as the person speculates if the person who asks for the affair might have some special feelings for him. He keeps forgetting that he is supposed to ask for a friend. Knowing that she'll get paid by answering such an easy question, she plasters her capitalist smile on and tells him that the young lady thinks highly of him. With a firm resolve, the man declares that he will accept the lady's proposal. Suddenly, Ciela feels envious of the lady in question. Seems like her crush has accepted her rather unconventional proposal. Ciela asks for the girl's name, but the man suddenly exudes a strange aura and orders her to stand up. Ciela's body, for some reason, feels strange, and she does what he asks. He commands her to forget everything he said that day, and she instantly agrees. But then he comes closer, intending to remove her mask. Desperate to keep her identity a secret, Ciela manages to get control of her body and steps away from the man. However, she seems to have forgotten what had occurred just moments ago. Despite his surprise that she manages to get away from his ability, the mysterious man simply bids her farewell. Days later, Ciela is forced to stay at the guild and work just to evade May's questions regarding her appointment with the guild. She explains to Later that she can't very well reveal the truth to May because for her, as for everyone else, Ciela Laverins is simply a weak girl inside and out. After laughing at her expense, he points out the doll she is making, accusing her of cursing someone with it. However, the doll is not what he thinks it is. It is actually an adorable replica of her favorite character in the novel, Crown Prince Renos himself. Later on, she goes shopping for some necessary items that would allow her to travel conveniently. She feels like everything is too late now. There will definitely be a love triangle between Tyrael, Duval, and Renos. Before she gets involved, she plans to leave the Empire. Surprisingly, a guest has been waiting for her when she arrives back home. That person is none other than Crown Prince Renos himself. Ciela tries to calm herself, inviting the prince to the living room. Renos then charmingly gives her a bouquet of flowers. When they are settled, the prince notes that despite not having an appointment, she graciously received him. She can't very well tell him that she knows that he is the Crown Prince, so she argues that someone who brought flowers could not be dangerous. The prince then comments that she seems to be planning for a long trip based on the things she has bought. The man then declares that he has come to accept her proposal. This gives Ciela the opportunity to greet him properly. He apologizes for not inviting her to the palace immediately, and she does her best to flatter him. Ciela then formally introduced herself, and he did the same. Unexpectedly, he leans closer, gently taking hold of some strands of her hair. He declares that from then on, they are to be lovers. After using his charms for a second, the prince suddenly turns shy. Ciela is quite bewildered that he can be both. Pick a lane, Renos. It's unfair for our hearts if you are charming and cute at the same time. Going back to business, Ciela begins discussing her fiancé's betrayal. She clarifies that the contract has a clear purpose. Until she manages to break up with Duval, they will keep the contract. She asks him for his condition in turn, questioning if he wants a way to win his fiancée back. However, his entire mood changes, asking her what will happen if he doesn't actually have a fiancée. Reasonably, she answers that if he doesn't have one, then he doesn't have to sign a contract with her. This makes the prince think for a second, and then promptly tells her to forget what he said just then. He declares that he accepts her contract and that he will maintain a relationship with her until his fiancée returns to him, and so the two of them are in agreement. They even had to try out the limit to how close they could get to each other. Ciela is definitely flustered, especially when up close and personal with someone as attractive as the crown prince. Oh, she is so lucky! Sometime later, in Rima's salon, a bunch of ladies are doing what rich and pampered women do when they get together. They gossip. The most prominent topic of the time, of course, is the affair between Duval and Tyrael. Their gossiping becomes even more intense when the couple in question enters the salon, flaunting their relationship for all to see. The ladies are outraged that Lady Puratina has betrayed Ciela this way, especially since she is able to enter society because of Lady Labyrinth. What makes the drama go up a notch is when Ciela arrives at the salon as well, with Renos. Things are about to go down. The two couples come face to face, and Duval has the audacity to look angry. The nerve of this man! When the gentlemen leave the ladies alone in the salon, Tyrael tries to talk to Ciela. Unfortunately, a lady swoops in to take Ciela away from that awkward conversation. Ha! That's what you get! You betray her, but you still want to be friends with her? What is wrong with you? When Ciela is asked who is the man she was with, she lies that he is someone she met at the temple. After that day, she and Renos are inseparable. Since she manages to trample on trashy Duval's pride, the man is definitely angry. However, this is not enough to break up their engagement. She needs to strike harder. With that thought in mind, she requests for the prince to go with her to the clothing store. The next day, May is going on a rant about the man Ciela is apparently dating. She insists that her lady deserves someone better than some stranger. As they make their way downstairs, May declares loudly that only someone rich and handsome deserves Ciela, the crown prince in particular. Surprisingly, the prince is already waiting for her downstairs, and he has heard May's tirade. She tries to stop May from speaking, for she still hasn't noticed the prince, but it's too late. Rather than be annoyed, our handsome prince smiles charmingly and introduces himself as the prince in front of the ladies. In the carriage, the prince notes that her maid loves Ciela so much. He looks incredibly amused by what happened that morning. Meanwhile, Ciela is totally embarrassed, asking him to forgive May. The prince assures her that he did not take offense. He is honestly quite pleased that he is the only one who could possibly reach the standard that is considered suitable for Ciela. With her top-tier social skills, she once again flatters Renos, declaring him the most handsome guy in the world. She is so shameless with her compliments. The prince ends up being embarrassed by her words instead. She then giggles upon seeing his cute side. They eventually arrive at the clothing store, and the way they are received only incenses her suspicion even more. The owner is clearly terrified that she has arrived without notice, which means that the rumors are true. Duval is in the store to buy a dress for Tyrael. She insists on entering the store. With a smug look on her face, she vows to strike hard. When Duval finds the two of them standing awfully close, the guy reacts like he's been wronged. He becomes even more enraged when Ciela admits that Renos is indeed her lover. Resigned, Duval admits defeat, saying that he'll do whatever she wants. He then proceeds to declare that Ciela is the only one he loves. Oh, this pathetic man is such a two-faced lying cheater! Naturally, Ciela calls Duval crazy. When Renos comments about the maddening situation, Duval gets in his face, telling him to get lost. Of course, Reno does not back down, challenging Duval even more. Fortunately, Ciela interferes before the situation escalates. She even notes just how good the prince is when it comes to acting. OMG, girl, that man just wants to defend your honor. He is definitely not acting. Suddenly, a voice calls out to her. It's Tyrael. She notices that the dress her ex-friend is wearing is for engagement. She can't believe that Duval has taken Tyrael to pick out an engagement dress at the same time he confessed to her. What a total jerk! Tyrael is quite curious about who Renos is. Ciela is quite surprised that the two of them do not know each other. She assumes that the engagement between them was done without them meeting one another. The prince takes hold of Ciela's hand and introduces himself as Ciela's lover. Angrily, Duval grabs Ciela's arm, demanding to speak with her in private. Renos is quick to hold her to him, telling Duval that he can't do whatever he wants with someone else's lover. Duval tells him to get lost once again, shouting that Ciela is his fiancée. Ciela then points out that Tyrael is standing right there wearing an engagement dress for God's sake. Ciela even tells Tyrael that Duval confessed to her only moments ago. Tyrael begins weeping, asking Duval for the truth. Of course, Duval denies everything, assuring her that she's the only one he loves. He is making it seem like Ciela is a liar. After that whole ordeal, Ciela and Renos are about to ride the carriage. She tells him how tired she is, but still, she feels like she has won. He asks her how she ends up with Duval, and she replies that it's because of family business. The prince worries that Duval will not let her go, but she reveals that he is the one who suggested canceling the engagement. She even has a recording of it. Ciela is then curious why the engagement between the prince and Tyrael has been done when they've never met before. The prince gives his timid answer, but she persists. She asks him how he felt upon meeting Tyrael earlier. In the novel, his heart is supposed to beat fast when he first sees her. He falls in love that way. To her surprise, Renos confesses that his heart beats fast because he is with her. He tells her that it has been his pleasure acting as her lover. She replies that it is her honor as well. She assures him that their charade will be over soon enough. At this point, Ciela is confident that the breakup will proceed smoothly. Unfortunately, things are more complicated than they seem. Later on, Duval barges into her office, telling her that he is no longer willing to break off the engagement. Ciela cannot even fathom Duval Essett and his changing views about their divorce. She thought he had his rational moments, but ultimately, he's just one big baby. A stupid one at that. Ciela then reminds him that despite his newfound reluctance on their divorce, they already have an agreement. What's more, she also has enough evidence for it, so by law, they're allowed to call off their marriage. She then proceeds to play the recording on her magical tool, showing Duval and Miss Puertina in his arms, clearly saying he wants a divorce from Ciela. That's what's called a checkmate move for Ciela. But suddenly, Duval grabs the recording and smashes it to the ground. Fortunately, it seems that Ciela is well prepared, saying that she has plenty of them, even showing him another one. Duval isn't deterred, as he even offers to have Ciela's lover taken care of if he leaves her. When she tries to retort back, Duval declares that she is his fiancée. Ciela takes this in and immediately starts laughing at him. Unfortunately, Duval resorts to blackmail, questioning whether or not Ciela's parents, who got out of poverty because of their marriage, would allow their divorce. But with much confidence, Ciela stands her ground, saying she can't pay back whatever sum of money they're talking about. She gives him an ultimatum, 3 days to finish writing up the divorce papers. She then calls her maid to escort the guest out, effectively stopping the conversation. However, Duval still leaves with a threat. Anyway, May rushes forward to clean the rune magical tool because of all the glass shards. She also relays that no answers have come from Count Vulpin. That's troubling, considering Ciela has asked the Count to sign the divorce papers. May then gives her a letter from Lidsay. The contents of it prompt Ciela to immediately go to the promenade to catch the Count. But she isn't alone. Turns out the Crown Prince insisted on joining her on her trip. Ciela apologizes since they've been waiting for an hour, thinking Prince Renos is having a hard time because of her. She makes it clear that he didn't have to come, but Renos says it might be dangerous. Even though she only needs a signature? The reason why Count Vulpin's signature is needed is because the officiant of the wedding must sign the divorce papers for it to be complete. Renos warns the lady to be careful, but later on, he suddenly grabs her hands, asking Ciela if she likes candy. Turns out the prince noticed a cotton candy shop nearby. The prince reveals that he hasn't had candy, so Ciela decides to prank him a little by telling him to wash his cotton candy. She observes him pouting like a cute little child, and she playfully says the prince has a cute side. Their moment gets interrupted, though, when they spot Count Valten nearby. Night falls, and Count Valten cautiously walks through the streets. He begins to think that he's being followed, but he decides to dismiss it. That is, until he runs into Lady Ciela just in front of his path. Ciela greets him, noting how Valten has been avoiding her. The Count then thinks it's wise to run away, but he gets blocked by Renos himself. And so the three find themselves in a room where Ciela keeps questioning the still silent Count. Valten seems to be wary of Renos. Ciela notices this and assures him that he cannot escape, so he might as well talk with her. Unfortunately, the first thing that comes out of Valten's mouth is his refusal to sign the divorce papers, fearing a quarrel will arise with Marquise Duval. Ciela then questions whether or not Duval had bribed him, but the Count gives her a cryptic answer, saying all he hopes is that she and Duval can mend their relationship. That sounds a little bit like gaslighting, don't you think? Anyway, Ciela takes this as the last straw for negotiations, and she showcases her powers, likely from being a member of the Laverins family, saying that if Valten won't have a conversation, then she'll be happy to oblige. Ciela has powers? Powers that emanate a dark and ominous aura? Renos gets alerted with the sudden development, calling out to Ciela, but she keeps her focus on the Count. Poor Valten can only shout for help as dark hands start reaching for him, as Ciela merely fixes her gaze at him. Seriously, what is with this sudden villain vibe? Fortunately, Renos is there to shake her out of it, though he's mainly concerned about her fainting. Valten cowers at Ciela's abuse of power, but she can't even respond, dizzy from exerting her skills. And so, Renos convinces her to leave, since they can't pry anything out of the Count anyways. Still, Ciela declares that she'll find a way to complete the divorce. Actually, there's no other way if Count Valten doesn't sign, something Ciela admits as she plays with her Renos doll the next day. Lucky for her, her assistant from her guild arrives, bearing good news. It was another case about a man cheating on his wife, and Ciela is surprised to find out about Count Valten. What's more interesting is that his mistress is Layla Isit, Duval's sister. Later even managed to acquire evidence, another magical recording of Valten and Layla together. Ciela remarks that her way ahead might be easier than she thought, right before praising later as the best VP of her guild. The upper class of society seems to be having a social event in a museum, an art gallery credited to none other than Count Duval Iset, apparently a man with a great love for art, who's there with his sister Layla. While older brother is being praised for his support of artists, Layla spots Count Valten in the crowd, causing the man to wave back with a hint of shyness. All the while, his wife observes her husband's behavior. Affairs are happening all around! Out of nowhere, a stranger approaches the rather dejected Countess Valten. He whispers something in her ears, and her eyes flash in shock. He hands her a magical recording tool, and it opens right in front of her. A projection of her husband, Count Valten, and Layla Iset immediately starts playing, with the man professing his love to his mistress. The cheater even planned their honeymoon! Of course, Count Valten and Layla are the first to react, just as the entire crowd starts recognizing and figuring out their love affair. Count Valten tries to reason first with his wife, saying they'll talk in private, but she runs away from him in tears. All the while, a smiling Ciela happily considers if it's her turn to act in her wonderful plan. What a rather satisfying turn of events! Meanwhile, Countess Valten is understandably in shambles about the recent confirmation of her doubts. Accepting her relationship with the Count is over. She plans to prepare for a divorce when Lady Labyrinth, that's Ciela for those that don't know, calls out to her. The two decide to talk over a cup of tea, and Ciela, as if she wasn't the one to orchestrate the whole fiasco, pretends she's hearing the news of the Count's affair for the first time, just like most of the upper-class society present at the party. Countess Valten admits that she wants to leave her husband. The poor thing has fallen to gambling and drinking because she couldn't act on it. Worse, as Ciela notices, the Count also seems to be hitting his wife. Unfortunately, the Count is adamant about not letting his wife go, and it's not out of love or devotion. The only reason is that if the Count divorces her, then he cannot continue to keep the title, meaning his social standing would collapse. Count Valten would go back to being Nyx, his commoner name before being married into the upper social class. After listening to her story, Ciela decides to advise the grieving Countess Valten. In her situation, she is the most suitable to step in and help. The Countess asks her why she's so willing to help, despite the situation not being involved. Though Ciella's doing it for the signature initially, she admits that she herself knows about the feeling of betrayal. And so, she asks the Countess to listen carefully. Count Duval's face scrunches with annoyance at the recent turn of events. He's pondering about what made Ciella change and how getting her attention isn't enough anymore. But more importantly, he's extremely vexed at the sudden appearance of Ciella's lover, which he doesn't know is the Crown Prince. Anyway, back to the present, the Count shouts in disbelief at his sister and Count Valten about their recent slip-up. Looks like all the cheaters have decided to convene. Layla instead begins reminding her brother of his promises, that they won't have any problems, and how Count Valten's allegedly stupid wife won't do anything about it. Duval tells her to shut up, as he's getting a headache thinking about all of this. Of course, the divorce will be bad, but not because of concern for his friend, but because it removes Valten of his Count status. And that is very bad for their business. So Duval states that they should act. If the recording crystal were to fall to government hands, then Count Valten's fall is ensured. His move is then to figure out a plan to protect Count Valten. Getting an idea, Layla beams as she shares it with the group. The cheaters-only exclusive group, I should say. Getting back on track, Layla suggests that they should frame Countess Valten with the same crime they're being accused of. If she's having an affair, then she herself will be in trouble. Count Valten thinks about it, initially pondering how Arya, Countess Valten's real name, stays in her room all day. Then a sudden thought hits him. She may not have a lover, but they can make her have one. A malicious smile creeps up as he suggests his trap. Meanwhile, Lady Arya and Ciella have just finished drafting their agreement papers. If the former would gain her countess status after her divorce, then she would sign the latter's own divorce papers. With that, Ciella asks Arya to stay for at least 2 weeks, reasoning that something bad might happen. Later that night, Ciella remarks how tiring her day was and how she seems to be missing something, only to find out that it was Renos. The Crown Prince is a little absent from the story lately. Turns out she's feeling a little bit guilty for all the things he's done for her. Anyway, she was thinking that she'll grant Renos a favor when a letter enters her room. It seems to be from her enemies, though it leaves her with little concern. Day after day, Ciella notices the positive changes separating with her husband had on Arya. However, according to the letter she received today, trouble will find them. Ciella holds Arya's hand, reassuring her that this is the Labyrinth family's castle, and she is its owner. Ciella again with the heroine with villainous vibes. As night falls on the Labyrinth castle, 2 rough-looking men emerge from the cover of the trees. Slowly but surely, they make their way into the castle through a window without so much as a sound. Oh, surely this must be Count Valten's evil plan. The men eventually find their way into a room, possibly where Arya is supposed to sleep. They see a figure in bed underneath the sheets. With a smile on his face, one of them threw back the covers while the other brandished ropes, only to find the bed empty. Suddenly, a voice calls out to them, asking if they're looking for something. They turn, and there she is, Ciella, standing menacingly with the moonlight against her back. If I didn't know any better, she might have been the main villain of the story. She starts toying with the trespassers. Treating them as kids, she warns them not to act like that at night, then suddenly shifts the mood with threats, saying that perhaps the 2 only went there to die. And it becomes even more darker because Ciella's powers start manifesting. The intruders were right to flee, but even running isn't enough to escape. Darkness envelops them, right as they feel something grabbing them. They only had a brief chance to recognize the Labyrinth family's power, as Ciella declares they're going to have fun. You know, they probably wouldn't have fun, Ciella. Moments pass, and the 2 awake to find themselves in an unfamiliar place. They argue about the misinformation on Ciella being weak, but they don't have enough time to do so, as various traps begin springing to life. They run to a gradually narrowing hallway, but they get distracted from a noise coming from above, and that's when they got hit. Screams start emanating, but from an orb-like sphere, which she calls Labyrinth, generated by Ciella's powers. Ciella herself, though, is still preoccupied at how Arya is the one being attacked when it's her husband that cheated. Anyway, she's got more to her powers. Ciella utters the word Cerberus, and the Hellhound appears out of nowhere with its middle head even answering yes, which creeps out Ciella. Turns out the Labyrinth family are descended from warriors that defeated the evil dragon with their special skills of being able to use evil souls. Use as in to command, with the evil souls obeying them and only them. The only drawback from their power is that it consumes too much for the person, weakening their body and brain. It's the reason for Ciella's sickness, and if she's not careful, that power might consume her. Anyway, she had Cerberus pull out the intruders from her labyrinth orb. The two actually didn't crack after Ciella first questioned them, but a threat to another trip inside the labyrinth did the trick. Meanwhile, Count Vultan is already sipping wine, thinking the task he set was already accomplished. He had the audacity to think Arya's actions caused him to take such dirty methods. However, a group of men suddenly burst forth looking for him. He had been placed under arrest for various crimes, and a teary Arya accompanied by Ciella watches tearfully from outside. Finally, Arya's plight has ended. Arya declares everything to be over, finally, but Ciella stops her. This just isn't revenge enough for what Count Vultan has done, saying that they should punish those who cheat. Meanwhile, the man in question, Count Nix Vultan, or should I say, former Count, finds himself imprisoned all the way for himself. He laments about his current situation, one that's well-deserved, I should say, and even curses one of the women who put him behind bars. His silence and solitude gets interrupted, however, when Arya comes to visit him. Nix is prideful enough to assume she's there to help him. He even calls her his wife all endearingly. Yucks! Nix asks her for the bail money, saying it's his way out. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't even have money now. Nix stops talking, though he notices Arya being silent. The first thing that Arya says when she speaks is that they should divorce. The man tries reaching out to her from behind bars, but she's adamant she doesn't want to live with him anymore. Arya gives him a written draft of their divorce papers, needing only his signature. The title of Countess, the castle, and all the properties will remain with Arya, and Nix gets the gold mine. As soon as he hears this, Nix snatches the document, eagerly wanting to sign. He thinks that Arya is making a foolish decision since she's basically giving him her source of wealth. After he signs the paper, Nix's true personality begins to surface. He doesn't even hand the document over to Arya, but he lets it fall to the ground. With a very smug face, he declares he doesn't need her anymore since he retains ownership of the gold mine. That confidence is short-lived, though, as Ciella walks into the room. Nix thinks he's got the best of Arya, but Ciella reveals he's now in huge debt. Turns out, Arya borrowed a lot of money, and the mine is closed and about to be sold anyway. Nix really thought he finessed Arya out of all of her wealth. His face turns into that of a grotesque, sniveling man as he realizes his situation. With their business with the former Count done, Ciella says to Arya that they should leave. All the while, Nix's shouts and cries for help to his ex-wife echoes around the prison. Back outside, Arya thanks Ciella for her help, and the latter wishes the former to truly find her happiness. Their joyous moment is cut short, though, when suddenly, Ciella collapses. When she awakes, she's already lying in her own bed with her maids tending after her. She is still very tired, though, and she doesn't even get up from her bed. As night falls, a shadow of a dragon is seen near Ciella. Ciella gets awakened from her sleep by a sudden noise. She also notices a cold breeze, though she's unsure if she ever opened a window. Suddenly, she notices a shadow creeping up to her, but this one's that of a human form, and is shocked to see the Crown Prince Renos of all people in her room. Like a kid caught in the act, Renos immediately begins explaining, saying he hadn't intended to enter her room, but he ended up doing it anyway. He doesn't even care that Ciella's still rubbing her eyes from just waking up. Speaking of Ciella, she questions whether she's dreaming right now since she's been thinking about Renos the entire day, and so she asks him to sit near her. Being the shy guy he is, Renos refuses, despite Ciella asking for a second time, saying he only visited in the first place to check up on her, and now he has to go. She, on the other hand, gets pissed that he seems to be disobedient despite being in her dreams. She actually thinks she's in a dream, lol. Ciella gets what she wants, though, and Renos sits down for a moment, although it's like 6 feet apart from each other. After a moment of silence, Renos again begins to explain how he ended up in her room, saying he truly has no ill intent. He did ask if she's surprised by him being there, to which she replies yes to, since it's like the 3rd floor of the castle and he did appear out of nowhere. Thankfully, Ciella credits it as being part of her dreams, and Renos takes this as an invitation to tell the truth, saying he flew up to enter her room. Ciella asks if Renos can fly, and so she begins prying about his supposed ability, even asking if he's a magician. When Renos finds it difficult to explain, Ciella decides to do a little bit of manipulation, faking that she's getting sick again and coughing. The concerned Renos had no choice but to oblige in order to keep the supposedly sick Ciella from talking further. Brother, you just got played! Renos reveals that he can transform into a dragon, and Ciela again convinces him to transform. But it's not the gruesome kind of dragon that he'll become according to the novel, but a rather small, cute, babyish black dragon. He even follows every instruction from Ciela, the cute thing. Ciela eventually gets tired, so she and the dragon lay in bed. She asks him to stay with her through the night, and Renos the dragon obliges. The next morning, though, she's alone in bed, but there's a crease in her bed indicating someone had been there with her. In the southern regions, Ciela's parents enjoy their 2-week vacation. Just then, her father declares their intention to arrange her marriage upon their return. Although her mother, desiring her son to inherit the Count's wealth, approves of this decision, their self-congratulatory moment is interrupted by a letter from their daughter. The letter reveals that she has divorced Duval. Meanwhile, Tyrael paces happily at the thought that the office finally approved Ciela's divorce papers. Thinking that there won't be any obstacles to their trashy love, she visits Duval's office to talk about the engagement party. However, Duval isn't even happy to see her barging in without permission. When she starts to open up about their engagement, Duval finally shows his rotten intentions. According to this crappy man, he just used Tyrael to get Ciela's attention. In other words, Tyrael was just a mere tool for his selfish desires. Tyrael falls down to her knees, questioning Duval's confession to her. Geez, I don't even have an ounce of pity to defend this snake. Out of desperation to be with a trash bin, Tyrael asks if she can be Ciela's replacement. However, Duval clearly declares that she definitely can never be Ciela. Of course, a rotten trash like her can never become a precious gem. Tyrael feels ultimately shattered and defeated, but she can't just sit and fall into miserable despair. At the same time, Ciela and Renos are walking outside the mansion, him reaching for her forehead to check if she still has a fever. Suddenly, she remembers that they met in her dreams, where he also touched her forehead with his little paws. Just at the thought of it, Ciela's face blushes, blaming the weather for being hotter than usual. Also, she is finally free from being betrothed to a narcissistic man. Given that, she's happy to meet Renos in a worry-free manner. This time, Renos bravely confesses that he wants her to stay close to him. Ciela's face can no longer hide how her heart races. Seizing the moment, Renos presents her with a bracelet as a parting gift. Despite her happiness at receiving such a thoughtful gesture, Ciela recognizes that it's not the time to revel in happiness with someone new, especially after just getting divorced. So she changes the topic, asking about Renos' relationship with Tyrael. Renos nervously lies about it just so he can extend the duration of their contract. Ciela promises to do her best so he can renew his engagement with Tyrael, believing that the novel's course won't change. At this moment, Renos gladly hands her an invitation to the upcoming Crimson Moon Festival, where, according to the novel, Renos makes a significant appearance. A crimson moon appears only twice a year, in the summer and winter. They say that it can awaken the power of the evil dragon. That's why the imperial family would always offer a sacrifice, wishing that the dragon would just stand by. At the same time, a festival is held to reassure the people of their safety. However, this year will be different because Renos will transform into a dragon and destroy the whole area. That's when Tyrael's divine power comes into action to turn Renos back to normal. However, Tyrael is madly in love with Duval and not with Renos. Ciela finds herself in a state of panic, even thinking if he'll be better imprisoned at this time. Clearly, she can't afford to let the imperial state be destroyed. But even if she isn't vocal with her worries, Renos understands her as if he can read her mind. With such reassuring words and a warm smile, Renos asks if she can accompany him during the Crimson Festival. Oh, how can she resist that gentle bearing? Days later, Ciela finds herself accompanying Renos in town, celebrating the Crimson Festival together. Turns out, she made an embroidery in exchange for the bracelet he gave to her last time. The way they blush towards each other makes me want to fall in love. Still, her worries linger even with his assurance about the medicine wrapped around his belly to suppress his transformation. Just then, the Crimson Moon special show about the legend of the evil dragon commences. At this time, she runs towards the opposite direction, fearing that the show will turn out. However, they still end up watching it with everyone else, and the story goes like this. Once upon a time, the evil dragon had a lover, an evil woman, who wanted to control over the power with the help of the dragon's power. However, the people found out about her plan, so they killed her to protect the peace in the world. After losing his lover, the evil dragon lost his mind and therefore ruined the empire. In the end, the 5 warriors gathered to punish the evil dragon. Right before he died, he left a deadly curse. As a revenge for his lover, his curse would forever be with the imperial family. Ciela realizes that the curse originated 1,000 years ago, prompting her to ponder if the evil dragon had loved the woman for a millennium, patiently awaiting her reincarnation. Strangely, she finds herself envious of the evil woman, contemplating how it would feel to receive an enduring love from such a mythical creature. Just then, the scene shifts, and Ciela finds herself in an unfamiliar place, experiencing what seems like the touch of a dragon. Unsettled by the exaggerated sensation, she implores the supposed dragon to stop, only to discover, to her embarrassment, that it was Rinos' hand and not that of a dragon. As it turns out, Ciela had fallen asleep, and Rinos, being considerate, had caught her hand to prevent her from falling. Surprised by his own unexpected reaction, Rinos didn't anticipate her being bothered so much by the simple act. Ciela hastily apologizes and clarifies that it was merely a dream and not about him. Later that afternoon, Rinos playfully teases her about napping during the show. This time, Ciela confesses her envy of the evil woman and realizes that she had misunderstood the woman's intentions. The evil woman didn't seek world domination, she simply harbored genuine love for a dragon. Worries fill his eyes, and just when he's about to say something important, Duval steps up and interrupts him. How did this trash get out from the bins? Duval boldly asks for a talk with Rinos because it seems like his plan was ruined because of our majestic crown prince. Duval grabs his shoulders, thinking he can shake him, but no. The audacity of this trashy man to touch him! In front of Ciela, Rinos calmly handles the situation, assuring her of his plan so she doesn't have to worry about anything. Ciela believes in him, and so Rinos and Duval proceed to head into the forest to talk. He doesn't know what danger awaits him. Deep in the forest, Duval starts babbling about how penniless Rinos is, to the point where Ciela has to buy clothes for him. Who's gonna tell this guy? Just then, Duval reveals that it got quite troublesome for him that someone is meddling with his plans, and so he proposes to give Rinos money just so he can stay away from Ciela, further explaining how Rinos isn't suitable for their status. Rinos, who keeps silent all the time, finally makes his move from the unbearable nonsense. He reveals that he can't let anyone have Ciela because of his desire to be with her. As Rinos' eyes turn crimson, mirroring the moon's, Duval falls down to his knees, suffocated at Rinos' mere look upon him. Rinos further implies that he can kill him immediately, but he has to be patient, considering Ciela's fragile heart. If she'll be sad for Duval's death, then that would only spoil the mood, and so he gives him a chance to get lost before he can do something dangerous. With the dragon's ability to hypnotize people, Duval returns home with no memory of what has happened that day. Just as when Rinos thinks that the problem is solved, he suddenly feels a throbbing pain in his chest after using some power. As he's about to drink the medicine, something terrible happens and the vial breaks on the ground. Meanwhile, Ciela has no problem with what Duval might do because, after all, he's just a trashy villain. However, she's still very concerned. As soon as she realizes that there's no sound at all and no Duval yelling out, she rushes to the forest to look for Rinos. Just then, she can't utter a word when she finds his clothes on the floor with no trace of him. However, a shadow of a huge dragon looms over her. As she embraces herself from the dragon's wrath, she hears a familiar sound. As she turns around, Rinos transforms into a cute little harmless dragon. And that, guys, is what we call Attack of the Cutie. The servants find Ciela holding a dirty man's clothes while rushing to her room. They think that something fishy has happened between their lady and her date. Inside, Ciela unfolds the cloth, revealing a little Rinos in his cute dragon form. She hands him a pen and a paper to make their communication understandable. Look at that cute little paw holding the pen! How can this baby harm the Empire? At that moment, Ciela's face registers pure shock as she discovers that a kiss has the power to restore Rinos to his human form. I see what you're trying to do here, Rinos. Rinos shyly responds to her inquiries about the matter. However, this is not the main problem. Turns out he wasn't able to drink his medicine because he transformed into a dragon immediately. Also, he doesn't want her to write a letter to the Imperial Castle. No one knows, even the Emperor, that he can keep his consciousness in dragon form. All they know is the ones written in the books, which are all wrong. However, his difference is still a secret. As long as there is no Crimson Moon, he can change his form freely. Aw, that cute little paw doesn't want to ride anymore. And so Ciela offers him to stay for a while until he turns back into his human form. The little guy is so shocked. Relax, cute guy. It doesn't mean you'd be living together. Abruptly, May knocks on the door and swings it open. Fortunately, Renos quickly employs his hypnotic abilities to make May believe he's merely a winged lizard, not a dragon. Reacting swiftly, he gently slaps her hand with his tail as soon as May attempts to touch him. But when it comes to Ciela, he is as gentle as a feather. Soon after May leaves, Ciela teaches him signs so he won't be writing anymore. In the guest room, Ciela tucks him in bed, to which he cutely suggests that she should share the bed with him. Regardless of his cuteness, Ciela doesn't give up to temptation. The following day, as Ciela is about to prepare breakfast for Renos, distressing news arrives. Her parents were greatly enraged by her divorce, and if she won't reorganize it, she will be terminated. Later that day, Ciela has a rough time sorting out her problem. She vents out how her family is doing well enough without the Iset family's help, questioning as to why her parents still want to sell her to them. Also, she can't be fooled anymore. She knows very well that they want to pass the position of heir to her brother, Gerald. Still, she can't give up. That's why she has to work like crazy to earn a lot of money. Well, it's not like her family knows about her guild. Just then, Ciela starts explaining how she thought she was improving and doing well, but ended up returning to her starting point again in an instant, thinking that all she ever did turned out in vain. Renos asks for her hand and tells her not to be sad because going back to square one isn't a bad thing at all. It may be a sign that another opportunity is about to come, and who knows, it might be a chance to make up for everything she missed. Ciela, deeply touched with his words, notices that he keeps yawning. However, Renos doesn't want to go back to his room. Instead, he wants them to sleep together. This time, Ciela can no longer resist his cuteness, and so that night, they sleep together. However, Renos gets up, grabs a pen and paper, and looks at her one more time. In the letter, he promises to return soon when she needs him. That morning, Ciela wakes up without Renos in sight. She thought he wasn't the type who'd just disappear without any explanation, leaving her full of worries and strangely upset about the situation. But at least he properly bid his farewell in the form of a letter. Day after day, Ciela only misses him more, wishing that he would have told her of his return. Still, the day of the Sapphire Moon Festival Flower Imperial Party arrives, and Renos is still out of her sight. There is even no letter of invitation from him. Ciela has to make an excuse of his absence to May, who immediately judges him as someone completely unqualified for her lady. Ciela herself has no interest in going to the party, but May dresses her up well, which makes her the head turner of the party given her elegance and outstanding beauty. Oh, I hope she'll see him at the party. As soon as she enters the party, the hall fills with ill rumors about her divorce. However, Ciela isn't affected at all. In fact, she's looking forward to turning the tables pretty soon. Suddenly, someone introduces a duke named Ashleta Abshelkte. God, it's rather chaotic than Duval's mindset. Ciela can't remember a man like him, but upon seeing him, everyone bows their heads to pay respect. He has dark hair with red eyes that look like a crimson moon. However, he goes directly towards Ciela and asks her to talk for a moment. Outside, the duke asks why she's alone. Ciela reluctantly responds that she's alone by choice. Later on, she confesses that she's supposed to be with someone, but the situation isn't possible for them to meet. The Duke asks for her partner's name. Ciela answers that he's someone who resembles the Duke a lot. Suddenly, the Duke reveals that he was the one who should have been her partner for the night. With his arms around her, he tells her to look at him closely. Ciela is now getting confused. Just who is this man claiming to be her partner for the party anyway? The Duke further explains he had no other choice but to meet her this way. Also, he decided not to hide anything from her anymore and therefore asks her to trust him. In that moment, Ciela catches the familiar scent of the perfume that Renos typically wears. It dawns on her that the Duke is, in fact, Renos himself. Without hesitation, she seizes his collar, expressing her profound worry and sleepless nights because of him. Frustrated, she resorts to hitting him with her hands, but Renos responds by drawing her closer, offering reassurance that they're together now so she doesn't have to worry again. Just as she's about to grab his neck, she pauses at the sudden realization that she almost insulted the imperial family. Worried of the consequences of her actions, she shyly asks if she'll be punished by death. However, Renos just smiles, asking if it's a crime to accuse someone who couldn't sleep because she worries about him. Ciela realizes that Renos somehow changes along with his appearance. Renos somewhat agrees, stating that he always tries to help her in some way, although she can solve her problems on her own. But there's something about when they're together. Everything becomes simpler and safer. He then extends his hand, asking her to proceed inside to the hall to enjoy the party. I just noticed, Renos actually matched his outfit to her pretty dress, OMG! Meanwhile, inside the hall, two noblemen shyly greet Ciela. It's not possible that a lot of men want to greet her because of her elegance and exceptional beauty. However, one of them notices that it isn't Ciela at all. The other man agrees and apologizes for mistaking her as the Ciela they know. Still, the woman isn't even moving to excuse herself. Now they think that she's someone who has lost her mind. It turns out the woman is none other than the trashy traitor who coveted her best friend's fiancé. Tyrael keeps looking for Ciela in the crowd, not minding the nobleman who just talked behind her back. Just then, she spots her target with a handsome man as her escort. With everyone else around, Tyrael keeps acting kind, but one thing's bothering Ciela. Tyrael wears a dress that almost looks like Ciela's. Oh god, as if being a snake isn't enough. Now she's copying Ciela's fashion too? Does she have no original taste? Flashback to where it all began. Tyrael still clearly remembers the day when the rain poured heavily. Along with it, she fell into deep sadness and hunger in the slums. Ever since she was a child, her life was always a nightmare where she couldn't escape from. She didn't know why she ended up like that in the first place. At that moment, she was about to leave everything to escape, but then Ciela came. It was like a miracle that a noblewoman wanted to help her alleviate her situation. After all, Ciela was the one who took her out of the depths of living miserably. She then realized that Ciela was different from others. She exuded confidence, and she maintained a good posture all the time. Also, she had a famous fiancé. It seemed like there was nothing she could ever ask for. Seeing the perfect life Ciela had, which was totally opposite to hers, Tyrael started copying everything Ciela possessed. That's when Tyrael's greed led to the kind of person she is now. But how can she be like Ciela? Why can't she be her? It's simple, girl. A copy will always be a copy, easier to tear and replace than the original. On the other hand, Ciela knows that there is really something wrong with how Tyrael copied her dress. Her ex-friend didn't realize that she actually became a laughingstock looking like that. Tyrael's audacity doesn't stop there. She further asks Ciela's time to talk like they used to. In order to escape the noise from the crowd, criticizing Tyrael's indecent behavior, Ciela agrees to her proposal. Renos volunteers to accompany her to make sure of Ciela's safety, but she assures him that she will be right back after they finish talking. Besides, she can use her power against Tyrael if she plans on harming her. Still, Renos tells her to call him if something bad happens. On the porch, Ciela notices that not only did she copy her dress, but also her jewels. When asked what's going on, Tyrael proudly confesses that she searched for all the stores that Ciela may have purchased from. Knowing that Ciela only bought one dress, Tyrael still feels proud of herself for trying to match their dresses, even asking some praise for all her efforts. Ugh, she's crazier than Duval! Imagine, Ciela rescued her from living a miserable life, and now she has the audacity to ask if she resembles Ciela? How ungrateful! After Tyrael shows off her outfit to Ciela, she instantly feels something is off. It seems like she badly wants to become like her, even to the extent of copying her style. This is evident in the dress Tyrael is wearing, which closely resembles Ciela's. Oh my, that's weird! Tyrael admits that she desperately wants their relationship to go back to the way it used to. She even confesses that everything was her fault and explains that she has already ended things with Lord Isit. She continues to beg for Ciela to give her a chance. However, it is not that easy to forgive and forget. For Ciela, Tyrael is being too much. It's like she's gone crazy. In fact, she is the one who ruined their relationship in the first place by having an affair with her fiancé. I can't believe the audacity of this girl. And now she dares to make things the way they used to. No matter what she says, it is too late to go back. Whether or not she breaks things off with Duval, Ciela has firmly decided that their relationship is over. Upon hearing her final decision, Tyrael feels devastated. She doesn't know what to do with her life now that she's all alone. She continues to cry, hoping that her former friend might change her mind. Despite her pleas, Ciela is done taking care of her. She will no longer clean up her messes. Lastly, she doesn't want to see her again if she continues to say nonsense. As Tyrael attempts to reach her at the edge of the platform, she almost falls to the ground. Luckily, Sir Ray catches her just in time. Now, everything is in chaos, and the news immediately spreads around. He tries to stop Tyrael, but she insists he stay out of it, saying it is a matter just between the girls. Before things get worse, Ciela requests they go back right away. Afterward, Tyrael walks alone as people continue to gossip about the incident. After people heard about what she did to Lady Labyrinth earlier, she has now become the villain in everyone's eyes. Once she finds a secluded spot, she collapses to her knees in devastation. The thought of losing both Lord Isit and Ciela overwhelms her with depression. Now, she feels completely alone and unloved. In her mind, Ciela is the only one who receives love, a situation she deems truly unfair. Before she spirals into despair, a maid approaches, bearing news of an important person seeking to meet her. Upon spotting the pendant on the maid's scarf, she recognizes the mark of the Empress Consort. It turns out that the person who wants to meet her is worried about the state she's in. Shortly after, she extends an invitation for Tyrael to accompany her. On the other hand, the evil dragon's resurrection ritual takes place in an uneasy atmosphere. Due to the level of importance, all nobility are expected to attend. During the whole event, Ciela is worried that Tyrael might do something bad again. Fortunately, the ritual ended smoothly without any complications. She didn't encounter her again afterward. Later on, she finds herself alone with Sir Ray by her side, waiting for her carriage. He notices she looks tired from the entire event until now. It's probably because of the incident with Lady Puratina. Admittedly, Ciela is tired, and the shock has yet to wear off. On top of that, she has never seen Tyrael act like that. She feels anxious thinking about what she might do next. Before her carriage arrives, Sir Ray reassures her that everything will be okay. Now that her carriage arrives, she expresses her heartfelt gratitude to him as she prepares to step in. His assistance has meant a great deal to her, and she's truly thankful. Meanwhile, Lord Isit senses the ominous presence of the evil dragon as he's about to return home. Upon arriving at the mansion, May immediately runs to Ciela with worry. Despite trying to pretend that everything's okay, her maid notices something's off. Truthfully, she can't hide her real expression since she can't stop thinking about the incident. To divert the topic, she requests that someone prepare a bath for her. While May is helping her tone down, Ciela keeps thinking about the side of Tyrael that she just encountered earlier. She used to be kind-hearted and the beloved main character. Although she changed the story before, she never imagined things would change this much. There are too many differences from what she knew. Poor Ciela, she's blaming herself. The same goes for Ray, the unknown cursed crown prince who needs to cleanse the curse that had run amok. Previously, when the ruby door was opened, nothing like that happened. He previously stated that everything documented in history is altered. The cause of this change remains a puzzle. Thus, Ciela has been clueless about his statement until now. Looking back, things were strange from the time he easily accepted her request for a revenge affair. He later approached her after assuming a new identity that no one recognized. Now, she is starting to doubt Ray's motives because it's questionable how he's willing to go to such lengths for her when she's only his contractual partner. What could he be hiding? After taking a bath, Ciela proceeds to the study room instead of coming straight to bed. May approaches her, looking like she has something to say. Eventually, she discloses that the Marquis has sent another letter. His arrival is imminent, and if he discovers that she hasn't re-engaged yet, she'll find herself in serious trouble. However, she will not let it happen. She swears to protect her people with her power. The following day, Liathurner arrives at the mansion as requested by Ciela. Getting straight to the point, she initiates a conversation about the guild. It is common knowledge that she founded the guild as a means to break off her engagement, and recently, she achieved success in doing so. However, a problem arises. Her father has no intention of severing ties with the Isit clan. Normally, clan alliances are much like business deals, but to resort to blackmail is no different from selling her off. In truth, Ciela's father would go to any lengths to arrange a marriage in that family. He is unaware of the resentment she holds towards the Isit clan. The dilemma lies in her ability to disclose her possession of a significant sum of money, as it originates from the guild, a clandestine organization. Unfortunately, revealing this would cause problems, as it would raise suspicions about a noblewoman founding such an illicit guild. Ciella's resolution to this is business expansion. While she initially declined Liathner's shady business proposition, Ciella now intends to pursue a business that can be openly discussed and conducted in broad daylight. She seeks a venture that complies with standard business practices. Rather than depending on guild funds, she plans to utilize her personal business income. Shortly after, Ciella orders her to gather all the guild members so she can elaborate on her plan. Once everyone is present, each member is handed a contract. The document showcases an illustration of the new item they will be introducing in their upcoming business venture. The item unveiled is chicken skewers. It's a promising item with favorable prospects. Furthermore, guild members will be tasked with grilling these delectable skewers. In reality, the guild members have never worked a normal job and have only worked jobs that are too embarrassing to talk about. Some of them are quite hesitant about Ciella's new business plan. Meanwhile, some express excitement for a job that is clean and respectable. One member raises a concern about how to attract customers given the abundance of regular chicken skewers available on the streets. Ciella then explains that their business will stand out because they won't be offering just ordinary skewers. First and foremost, Ciella invites everyone to sample the food she has prepared so they can discover the unique chicken skewers they'll be selling. With the first bite, everyone reacts to the unexpected spiciness. Their reaction highlights the key point. There are no other spicy chicken skewers available. Some members joke that the intense spiciness might make people feel like they're breathing fire. This sparks an idea for Ciella, inspiring her to name the skewers the Dragon Series. The next day, the guild members start setting up their chicken skewer stall in the street. So far, everything is accounted for, so there is no issue. While everyone is busy, Liathner is protecting the guild and doing the paperwork. Meanwhile, Ciella happily observes everyone doing their jobs smoothly. Momentarily, Ray approaches her in the guise of a lizard dragon. This way, he wouldn't stand out much, especially since her older brother from the temple and the Duke of Yuzolti are making things complicated. Some weird rumors are totally going around. Upon seeing the menu, Ray feels upset about the name, thinking that they are serving dragon skewers. In Ciella's defense, it's not a real dragon, and she was just thinking of an impressionable name. In order to prove that it is purely chicken, she lets him try it. As he takes a bite, the reaction on his face shows that he loves it. Nearby, a child watches in amusement as a flying lizard enjoys something tasty. Thus, he asks his mother to buy one since he wants to try it as well. Since it's for a child like him, the server provides the lowest level of spice for him. Despite being the mildest option, it still packs a spicy punch. The child complains, so his mother eats it instead. However, even though it's spicy, it still tastes good. The child starts having tantrums as he tries to take the skewer from his mother. This commotion catches other people's attention. As a result, everyone proceeds to the stall to try it. There are 3 levels of spiciness, and a man volunteers to try the hottest one. Meanwhile, Ciella is delighted to see her plan come together. Her primary goal now is to ensure that as many people as possible become aware of luminous merchants, the first step in her business venture. The sight of a flying lizard eating chicken skewers amuses the children gathered by the stall. They even ask Ciella if it's her pet. Since they are asking for its name, she ends up naming it Piki because of the sound it makes. Ray, who is both the crown prince and the evil dragon, finds it cute as well. The success of the guild's business on the first day is all thanks to him. When the day ends, all the ingredients are already out. Moreover, the sales report is being delivered to Ciella. In addition, all the customers are informed that a portion of the profits will be donated to the temple as requested. In reality, it's not necessary to give a portion to the temple since the profit isn't that much. No matter how well the business goes, there is a clear limit to the money they can make. However, it's not how much they earn. In the first place, money is not Ciella's goal. Rather, it is to spread the word about the newly established merchant guild, Luminous, to as many people as possible. On that note, Duval Acit finally hears about Ciella sponsoring the newly established merchant guild. He finds it ridiculous that she's trying to back it up after the annulment. On top of that, he thinks that she must be struggling to survive without his family's support. As expected, selling skewers in the park stall seems like her funds are quite limited. Since most of the business associates connected to his family have turned their backs on the Labyrinth family, joining hands with an established merchant guild is not enough. Duval Acit anticipates Ciella's business to fall on its own without him having to do anything. Ugh, I hate him. He's so cruel. Anyway, he is waiting for Marquise Labyrinth to arrive since talking with him is much easier than with Ciella. However, It is reported that he's currently stuck due to his carriage suddenly breaking down. He might take longer than expected. So Duval orders his aide to keep in touch with the Marquise and, if necessary, mobilize their people to bring him to the capital as soon as possible. In addition, he orders to continue monitoring the luminous merchant since he wants to see how it goes down in flames. In the following days, Ray returns to his human form now that he's alone with Ciela. She has been pushing herself too hard recently, visiting the stall every single day without fail. He assures her that she's doing it because she's worried that the Acete family might interfere. Given Duval Acete's hostile character, he won't just sit still if things go well with her, thus she can't afford to let her guard down. Aside from him, Ciela is more concerned about her father. Even though she hasn't said anything more about his situation, Ray already knows that it will take time before the Marquise returns. Eventually, he confesses that he's the one who sabotaged the wheels of her father's carriage. He explains that he did it solely to help her and felt it was necessary at the time. With this, she finally asks him why he treats her so well. Finally, Ciela poses the question she has been wanting to ask. Initially hesitant, Ray eventually answers that it is due to their contract. Helping her break her engagement is part of it. Indeed, that is true. Their relationship is about both of them getting what each other wants. For Ray, his objective is to reclaim his fiancée. Please tell me he doesn't actually plan to win Tyrell's heart? After meeting Tyrell several times and not showing any interest once, he probably doesn't have any issues even without her purification ability. Ciela then asks what made him accept the revenge affair proposal before. Since he isn't able to give her a straight answer, he requests that she give him a little more time. Understandably, his actions and attitude are questionable. However, he doesn't know where or how to start explaining it. I personally think he likes her, and it definitely shows. Moreover, he doesn't want to speak without any preparation. In return, he makes sure that it won't take too long. In the middle of their conversation, Ciela realizes how strange the human heart is. Although she is the one who asked first, she is scared to hear the answer from Ray. Perhaps it's because she has a feeling that she must not heat up just yet. Even though she's not mad at him, the small shift in her mood makes it clear that something is off. Shortly after, she tells him that he doesn't have to answer right away. Since it's already late, it's now time to head back to the mansion. In the end, she wasn't able to sleep at all that night. The next day, she recalls her dreams about Ray, which makes her thoughts more complicated. Momentarily, Lethairner arrives to bear some good and bad news. Firstly, the good news is that the rumors about the Luminous have spread throughout high society. People are paying attention to it as the emerging merchant guild is sponsored by Ciela. On the contrary, there is a proposal for Luminous from the Acete family, who want to make a deal with them. They are suggesting that they work with them instead and end the relationship with Labyrinth. Moreover, the Acete family is offering to increase the sponsorship by shocking amounts. Admittedly, it is a tempting offer. However, Lethairner already receives glares from Ciela before she can say more. They won't accept the offer, so she will reject it properly. Momentarily, a worker knocks on the door to relay information about Ciela's client, who has an urgent matter to discuss with her. She is not expecting anyone at the moment, however the client wishes to see her as soon as possible. It appears that he has come for a love consultation. At the moment, the client is already waiting for Ciela in the library. Upon arriving, he immediately calls her out for being late. After expressing gratitude for his patience, she explained that she had to make some preparations since it was a sudden visit. The consultation seems mysterious because both of them are wearing masks. He's so handsome even with the mask on, though. Shortly, their session starts. Usually, Ciela doesn't consult in person. She remembers meeting him last time, however, the exact details are now blurry. Anyway, the client admits that he previously tried to find dating advice through books, but he didn't get the exact answer to it. She then asks him to explain further about his current situation. Admittedly, he has gotten a lot closer with the lady, and they have been seeing each other a lot more often lately. In addition, he even got a nickname from her. For Ciela, she thinks that everything is turning out well, especially since nicknames are only given when you have a good relationship. However, the issue is that there is something that the client cannot tell the lady. He needs to be truthful about the matter that he's hiding, which is why he's quite worried. Moreover, the matter that he is hiding is very important. The lady might avoid or even hate him as soon as she knows about it. Now, Ciela can't help but get curious about what he is hiding. She proceeds to ask for further details thoroughly to help her give him proper advice. However, the client refuses to disclose it. For him, there is no one but that lady who can know. Because of this, there is only one piece of advice that she can give, which is to tell the lady the truth, whatever it may be. Lies are bound to be exposed, and secrets are bound to be discovered. If the client insists on hiding the truth, it'll be exposed one day, and when that day comes, their relationship will be ruined more than expected. Ciela proceeds to discuss the confession attack. From the moment a person knows that someone likes them, even a little bit of interest may arise. So when they keep on thinking and thinking, they will eventually get attached without any realization. Finally, the client decides to try and gain the courage to do it. Furthermore, he asks for recommendations about which location is suitable for him to confess. Fortunately, Ciela is an expert in regards to dating courses. She then proceeds to write down a list of popular places in the Empire. Afterward, she encourages him to win the lady's heart. On her way home, she feels relieved after successfully giving dating advice to other people. The thought of Ray doesn't escape her mind, though. If her assumption about him liking her is right, it might be an opportunity for her to escape from Duvalier Sit quickly. Upon arriving, she continues to think about how her father would break off their engagement if she said that she was seeing the Crown Prince. Not long after, she overhears someone saying that taking advantage of other people's feelings is clearly wrong, as if someone is reading her mind. When she looks around, she sees Maya comforting Lola. It turns out that somebody took advantage of Lola after he knew that she liked him. Her situation is quite similar to Ciela's, except she's the bad guy here. Later on, she decides to sleep it off and think about things with a clear mind the next day. However, Ray's image keeps on appearing in her mind, and she can't do anything about it. OMG, I bet she is starting to like him. While Ciela is working, she suddenly remembers talking to Ray. She realizes that no matter what she does, she can only think about how she hurt Ray. But she then brushes it off and reminds herself to focus and not think of anything else. Later on, she finds herself sitting on the bench of the plaza. She then again remembers Ray and realizes she is confused about how Ray treats her since she thinks that is usual. She then comes to the conclusion that Ray might be in love with her and she worries about the possibility. Meanwhile, Ciela's helper looks at her and finds her acting weird by shaking her head. In the midst of Ciela's confused feelings towards Ray, she hides them by not avoiding Ray and replying to his letter, saying that she's swamped, so they can't meet for the time being. Ciela feels she cannot bravely say that she likes Ray, and Ciela also thinks she wants to maintain her relationship with him. When Ciela and the others are preparing to close the shops, Ciela asks the helper how the patrols in the area are going and reminds them to stay alert at all times since they do not know what Duval is going to do. Turns out, she is right to be cautious because not far from them are bandits who plan on destroying Ciela's store and move in pairs as soon as the patrols leave their posts. The bandit aims to prevent Luminous's business from growing further and letting the Dark Guild know who is powerful. They then set the stores on fire, leaving everything in ashes. The following day, Ciela receives a report that the store is burned. While reporting to her, the workers feel down and worried about the business. Ciela assures them that she has planned to move on to their next business, a trading group, since the Luminous name is already quite well known. To start her new business venture, Ciela meets with many noble people and invites them to invest in her business. Luckily, every meeting has positive feedback. After Ciela's busy schedule, she gets some fresh air. While Ciela is walking in the corridor, she hears a commotion of someone wanting to go inside and meet her. Curious about who that person is, she then looks at the doors only to discover that it is the young Duke Roublet Justice. The Duke then moves closer to Ciela and informs her that he wants to talk to her while calling her Cereal instead of Ciela. She looks at him, unimpressed, and curiously wonders why the young Duke is visiting her. Ciela is also bothered by the Duke calling her Cereal. Well, he may look like an adorable little pumpkin, but something tells me he's dangerous. A national hero, Duke Roublet Justice is the head of the esteemed and illustrious Justice family. Roublet's strength is his capacity to give up his own life to take the lives of his rivals. The Justice family exists to slay the dragon, just as a labyrinth family does, whose purpose is to trap it within the labyrinth. Duke Roublet possesses the appearance of a young child. This appearance is a side effect because he possesses the power no one can match. To break free from this form, awakening is necessary, and there is one condition for awakening: the emergence of someone he wants to protect but cannot protect in his current state. Ciela recalls that in the original tale, Duke Roublet awakens during the Festival of the Crimson Moon in order to defend Tyrael from the disastrous dragon's fury. Later, he evolved into the main enemy, threatening the protagonist's life and seeking to kidnap Tyrael. Suddenly, Ciela's thoughts are distracted by Duke Justice calling her Cereal, which Ciela then corrects him, and she spells her name for the Duke. After Ciela asks the Duke what his visit is for today, the Duke informs Ciela that he hears people saying that some prominent nobles are visiting her lately, and the Duke tells Ciela that he also wants to ask something about her. After hearing this, Ciela curiously asks the Duke if he wants to start a business. She, of course, thinks this is odd because Duke Rublet isn't supposed to be interested in anything. The Duke then informs Ciela that he is not interested in business endeavors, because his attention is focused on the dark-haired boy who accompanied Ciela to the carriage at the Imperial Ball. Ciela is shocked to hear that the Duke remembers Ray since, during the Imperial Ball, Ray mentioned that he manipulates the people's memories. Thus, no one can remember the Duke Apschlechti ever attending the ball. Duke Rublet then tells Ciela to inform him if she knows anything about the person, since the other nobles he asked admitted that they do not recall the person's name. The Duke also informs Ciela that he only remembers the ominous aura he feels with the dark-haired man, and finds it very suspicious. Thus, he asks Ciela if she knows anything about the man, since they look close that night. Ciela then acts foolishly while telling Duke Rublet that she is not sure which dark-haired person Duke Rublet is talking about. Duke Rublet notices Ciela's foolish expression, and thus concludes that she does not remember the name of the dark-haired person at the party. Duke Rublet then gives Ciela a necklace, telling her that it is an apology for visiting her without a preamble. But Ciela then tells him that she can't just receive a valuable gift. Duke Rublet then threatens her that he will not leave until Ciela agrees to accept his apology gift. Persistent little guy! Looking at the necklace, Ciela unwillingly agrees to accept it after Duke Rublet announces that he will leave and reminds Ciela to inform him if she remembers anything about the dark-haired person. As they are about to leave the room, Ciela and Duke Rublet hear a beep sound like a doorbell, but Ciela tells him that it is nothing and continues to escort the Duke out of the room. Meanwhile, we can see Ray in his tiny dragon form making a beep sound as it flies away from the tree near the room. As Duke Rublet is about to ride off in his carriage, he looks out the window of Ciela and thinks that his intuition cannot be wrong, and that what he feels from the guy is definitely the energy of an evil dragon. Ciela questions Liaether about the state of the guild later that night. Since she's not there, Liaether jokes that they are going bankrupt. Thus, Liaether goes on to lament that his face is becoming earthy in color, and that Ciela is taking advantage of workers. After that, Ciela asks Liaether in jest how much money he receives and if this is exploitation. Ciela even suggests that Liaether utilize this as an occasion to report her to the Dark Guild for his exploitation. Following their jesting, Liaether informs Ciela that the new business is off to a stronger start, and that the nobles' reactions are also positive. After that, Liaether tells Ciela that he worries a little since Count Acit's family controls the sponsorship business closely. Ciela reassures Liaether that there's nothing to worry about because she trusts them. Ciela then instructs Liaether to do a background check on the nobles since she plans to draw them to her. Thus, Liaether agrees and informs her that he will send her the information. As she is about to finish, she receives a magical correspondence with the imperial family symbol. Ciela is then compelled to respond to the letter because she cannot disregard a letter from the Crown Prince. According to the letter, the Crown Prince asks Ciela whether she is so busy these days that she cannot visit him, even briefly. Ciela responds that she is swamped. In response, the Crown Prince tells her he wants to go somewhere with her. After reading the response, Ciela begins to cutely shake her head and tell herself that it will be difficult for her to pretend not to notice if Ray starts making overt advances towards her. Ray wants Ciela's attention, but he's not even a big dog. Ray sadly implies to Ciela that he doesn't know anyone other than her who will spend time with him. Ciela then realizes that due to the curse, the poor guy cannot take a single step outside that imperial palace. Thus, he must pretend to be someone other than Rhiannos. Ciela then replies to Ray that they will meet soon when time permits and that she is going to sleep. While Ciela is drinking her tea the following day, Ciela reminds her butler to inform her if Earl Kettleton will arrive. Ciela instructs the butler to bring him to the reception room, but her instructions are cut off when the guard announces that Earl Kettleton has arrived. Ciela notices the same scent as Ray when the person enters the room. Ciela then moves close to Ray and asks her what he is doing in her house. Ray innocently tells her that he is there to talk business with Earl Kettleton. Meanwhile, the real Earl Kettleton is sleeping peacefully in a carriage. Seeing that Ciela knows who he is, he then charmingly asks Ciela not to avoid him today. How can you avoid a face like that? As Ciela and Ray walk around, Ciela suddenly remembers how Ray evokes her sympathy with his handsome, pitiful face. Ciela remembers Ray telling her how frustrating it is to be stuck with a crossbow again, and if it is not for Ciela, Ray would not have anyone to spend time with, which causes Ciela to go off guard, and she is forced to join Ray. Ciella's thoughts are interrupted when Ray calls her and asks if she wants to go to their usual dessert store, which Ciella curiously asks Ray if he also likes. Ray tells Ciella that he comes to like the dessert store too. Ciella then asks what he likes, and Ray replies that the store is very famous for its grape tart and that they need to try it too. While Ciella enjoys the grape tart in the store, she tells Ray that it has been a long time since she ate something. Ray smiles at Ciella and says he's glad it suits her taste. Ciella notices that Ray is not eating, so she reminds him also to eat since she feels that she might be eating most of the food. After the dessert store, they also visit the Crepes Outdoors and the steakhouse, which is said to be very famous. As they are walking, Ciella realizes that what they are visiting now is precisely the same date course she planned for someone and realizes that she's on a date. Ray notices Ciella's bothered expression and asks if something bothers her, which Ciella swiftly disagrees with. Ciella tells Ray that she's okay. Ray then asks Ciella to look at the sunset together, and Ciella asks if it might be about time to head home slowly. Ray convinces Ciella and tells her that it will only just be for a bit, and informs Ciella that it has been difficult for him to go out ever since he was little, and being out like now makes him feel happy. Thus, it feels like time is passing by so quickly. Hearing this, Ciella agrees, and they stand close to each other while looking at the sunset. The atmosphere feels so peaceful while they're looking at the sunset. While enjoying the sunset, Ciella notices that Ray is looking at her and asks if Ray is not interested in the sunset, but Ray replies that he finds it beautiful while looking at Ciella. Ciella thanks Ray and expresses how much she enjoys breathing in the fresh air instead of constantly discussing boring matters with the nobles. As they stare at each other, Ray notices a leaf on Ciella's hair and reaches for it. Ray's action makes Ciella's heart flutter. When Ray is about to talk to Ciella about both of them, he is stopped because of the rain. Thus, he pulls Ciella under the bridge first to avoid the rain. Ciella feels extremely awkward being stuck with Ray under the footbridge. This is a sign for you both to confess to each other already. Ciella starts talking to Ray about how the sudden downpour could signify that summer is almost here, as she waits for the rain to stop and takes in the awkward atmosphere. Ray observes that Ciella is feeling a bit cold when she's talking to him. So ever our number one gentleman, Ray covers Ciella with his jacket and reminds her to be careful because she could catch a cold even in the warm weather. After some while, Ciella is relieved because she is worried that she might get carried away by the atmosphere. When Ray is about to begin talking again, Ciella cuts him off and asks him if he will continue to look at her lovingly, thus making them stare at each other. While Ciella is staring at Ray, she realizes that even if she wants to avoid Ray, Ray's longing gaze is too apparent. And Ciella even realizes that she cannot avoid it any longer. Ciella tells Ray her side and informs Ray that she's trying to avoid him. Ciella confesses to Ray that she is not being as honest as she thought. Ciella also confesses that she is like other people, struggling alone and not having leisure time, thus making her feel a little scared. Ciella then looks at Ray and asks him to give her a little more time until she can get the courage. She then reassures him that she wants to hear what he's going to say, but she still needs time to prepare for it. Hearing Ciella's honest feelings, Ray longingly looks at Ciella and tells her that it is enough for him and that the fact that Ciella cares for him already makes him tremendously happy. Ray reassures Ciella that he can wait forever for her to be sure of her feelings. He even jokingly tells her that it may not look like it, but he is pretty good at waiting. Ray informs Ciella that he will not just stay still, but in fact, he will do something to help make sure of Ciella's feelings for him. Meanwhile, Tyrael is sitting inside the Empress's room. While drinking tea, the Empress tells Tyrael that it is raining a lot and that it will be hard for her to return home due to the heavy rain. The Empress then tells her that she should not have called her very late. But Tyrael reassures the Empress that it is okay and that she will always come whenever the Empress calls her. The Empress then praises her and tells her that she speaks beautifully and the Empress likes her. Tyrael feels confident and smiles at the Empress after hearing the Empress praise her, while replying to the Empress that she feels glad of what she said. The Empress then informs Tyrael that she is glad that she is on her side. Tyrael replies that she will do anything the Empress commands her to do. Hearing Tyrael's replies, the Empress then informs her to prepare since it is time to take back what is theirs that Ciella Labyrinth took. It is evident that the Empress is wicked. Tyrael curiously asks the Empress what she means by getting everything back. The Empress explains to her that from the very beginning, Ciella wants to break off the engagement with Aceit, and when Tyrael says that she loves Aceit, Ciella suddenly changes her attitude and then proceeds to get the attention of Aceit and makes Aceit stay away from Tyrael. The Empress then starts to brainwash Tyrell by telling her that Ciela stole the affection and attention that Tyrell should receive. The Empress explains to Tyrell that Ciela only pretends to care for Tyrell, but in the end, she humiliates her in front of everyone. Hearing everything from the Empress, Tyrell then believes that Ciela is doing everything on purpose. Seeing that Tyrell believes her, the Empress then informs her that she will receive the most honorable and highest position in the Empire, which Tyrell easily believes is the Empress. Next, the Empress is in the room alone and happy that Tyrell is easily persuaded, just like giving candy to a child. She then remembers her plan to keep the Crown Prince under her by using Tyrell's abilities, and giving Tyrell the position of the Crown Princess is a good thing. The seat next to the cursed prince. The next day, while riding in a carriage, Ciela remembers her date with Ray and feels embarrassed by what she told him. Ciela's thoughts are cut off when she arrives at Arya's place. Ciela is warmly welcomed by Arya, and as they are walking around the garden, Ciela informs Arya that her money donations are too much for the guild. Still, Arya assures Ciela that nothing is compared to the help she receives from Ciela. Hearing what her companion just said, Ciela expresses how grateful she feels for Arya. Arya then tells her that she will do her best to help in her business and also to make Ciela increase her connections. Arya proceeds to inform Ciela that she can increase her connection by receiving the Summer Star. Still, in order to receive the Summer Star, Ciela must make a considerable contribution to the Empire, which is very hard but not impossible to do at all. Hearing Arya's suggestion, Ciela then asks for a favor. Later on, a man is waiting nervously outside the gates. He asks himself why the daughter of the Marquise is looking for him. Feeling nervous, he is about to leave but is stopped by Ciela. Ciela warmly welcomes the guy, Apel. Apel then nervously reports to Ciela that he is being called to meet her. Ciela then informs Apel that she is the one who sent Apel the letter and invites him inside the palace to talk. Looking at Apel, Ciela recalls that in the original story, Apel is a person who knows how to create something, but he is worse at dealing with other people. However, Ciela knows that behind Apel's nervous and trembling tension right now, Apel will be a great wizard. The teacup is evidently shaking as its holder raises it for a sip. Apel is obviously nervous, and this does not go past the sight of Ciela, who is sitting across from him. Well, who would not be nervous if the lady of the family who contributed to the founding nation is sparing him her attention, right? After all, how could she be right in front of him, a man who is a nobody? He is merely someone who has been treated like nothing but a fraud because of his ideas. Amidst his hesitations and doubts he has for himself, she assures him his innovative products, especially the scroll, interest her greatly, and with that, she wants to help him with their development. Her support surprises him, making him feel an upsurge of excitement as he explains matters concerning his invention, a magical paper that can restore mana immediately. However, due to the lack of support and investment, his invention remains underdeveloped, and the lack of resources slows the progress even more. He needs a specific ore. Fortunately, the lady knows of it and even has access to it. Well, perks of having a partner who owns a mine. The story is still the same. The inventor still needed black magic stone, Raben, to proceed with the development of the scroll. Now, she hopes that she can fasten the invention of it. With her offer, she needs to know how long it will take to finish the invention of the scroll. But his answer does not satisfy her. The making of the scroll cannot take half a year. The Summer Star Award ceremony is fast approaching. Hence, she declares that it should be finished within a month. After all, she shall receive a huge number of Raben from Arya for this production. But there is another problem. The last magic formula is written in an ancient language he cannot decipher. As she holds the formula, she sees Ray, in his cutest form, a tiny dragon peeking through the window. As she welcomes him, he finds a piece of paper and asks her about her visitor, even highlighting if it is a man. The lady quickly responds who it was and what was their agenda. She even shares their last problem for the invention, the ancient language used in formula, but the Lord seems not to be listening. He is rather busy with the formula. Before she can finish her words, the Lord hands her the scroll, and alas, he has solved it already. Looks like the development of the scroll will go smoothly, all thanks to Lord Ray. According to Apel, there is no one left who can speak the ancient language used in the formula, so it is beyond amazement that Lord Ray was able to solve it instantly. Perhaps his dragon form aided in his knowledge? But either way, there is no response from him but a cute little peek. She calls for a helper, May, to send the inventor a message telling that all the formulas are solved. Later on, she and Ray, still in his dragon form, personally visit the inventor in his place. His place looks quite unstable, so she is hesitant to knock, but before she can even touch the shabby wooden door, it opens, revealing its owner, who seems to be unwell. He looks like he has not been sleeping for days. His skin is pale and has garnered dark circles under his eyes. But to him, his health and looks do not matter at the moment. He invites him inside his abode while apologizing for his messy home, with paper scattered on the floor. But it did not matter to the lady. It is only right to personally visit the inventor she favors. She hands him the formula they have solved to try for an experiment. As he examines the solution, the accuracy of it astounds him. Finally, his idea is becoming more possible, and it's all thanks to the lady's lizard? This fact surprises him even more. Enough with the surprises. He proceeds to combine the formula with the Ray-Ban. Upon dipping the paper into the mixture according to the formula, something explodes. He stumbles to the ground, which worries Ciela. Her worry washes out when he seems not to mind the explosion as his attention is on the paper. It's a success! With so much joy, he immediately gets up and rumbles all his gratitude to the lady, even closing their gap. So close that Lord Ray attacks his face. What a jealous little dragon! But he did not mind the attack he received. After all, to him, nothing can surmount the happiness of a successful experiment. Now, all that's left is to show it to everyone, and it seems that Ciela already has a plan for it, as she instructs him to be quiet about it and let her take over instead. Now, back in her place, she is busy checking something when a helper calls for her. Apparently, there are numerous packages sent for her from a sender named Abschlechty. Upon opening it, a hint of confusion can be heard from her. What's with the health supplements? Lord Ray is sitting on the table holding the supplements the lady had received earlier. Apparently, he has been feeding her those, but she is not enjoying it anymore, refusing to take another one. But the little dragon is really persistent, and she cannot ignore his cuteness, so she has no choice but to give in. The little creature surely is worrying for her health, so she assures him that she will take care of herself better. Aw, look at him wanting to care for his lady. As they sit in front of each other, she asks him if he is fine in his form, even suggesting he shift to his human form. After all, it is just the two of them in the room. It's also already late for someone to barge in. But that is the very reason why he refuses to shift. It might be dangerous for the both of them. She quickly imagines what it could have been with his drop-dead gorgeous human form. The image naturally makes her blush. I mean, who would blame her? Look at him! She abruptly changes the topic, trying to avoid the images in her head. Her attention is now on the scroll, the time and place to properly showcase it. It seems like there's no such place that will satisfy her target audience. The whole world but Ray quickly suggests something else. There would be a charity party with an auction that would be held on the Marquis' Cherish, an event where the great nobles gather. But the thing is, the hosts are descendants of the Empress, who is not on good terms with the Lord. The bad blood between the Empress and the Lord bothers her, and going to the auction would mean he'll be meeting the people that side with the Empress. People that could also be against him. But he has already made up his mind. What's important to him is to help Ciela. In return, he makes a request, a promise. The day of the Cherish Foundation approaches, and as expected, many influentials are attending. They're gathered in one spot gossiping about the host of the event, and it seems like they're also mocking the Labyrinth family, taunting if a new business venture can match the standards of the Cherish Foundation. As if on cue, Ciela, the Lady of the Labyrinth, arrives with an oozing confidence, thanking them for the interest they are showing in the summit under her support. After gracing them with her unfazed charisma, she turns away from them with the determination to have them begging for the scroll after the auction. But upon walking, she recognizes Duke Rublet Justice. How come a man who is not the type to attend such events is present? She wants to hide, but before she can conceal her presence, he already notices her. Having no choice left, she entertains the man. Upon greeting, he notices the necklace he has given her. He showers her with compliments that make her feel strange. She already needs to exit to prepare for the auction. Before she can excuse herself, another man makes his presence known, Mr. Abschlechty, aka Ray in his dashing suit. His appearance perks the curiosity of the Duke, as he does not recognize his name. But the newly arrived man did not care about the Duke. Rather, it was taking Ciela away from him. Perhaps jealous? Mr. Abschlechty being possessive over the lady is not what caught the Duke's attention, but rather her necklace that is now glowing. The necklace he gave to her glows as it detects the evil dragon's energy. The identity of the unfamiliar man is now clear to him. Ciela steps up, defending Mr. Abschlechty behind her, stating to the Duke that it is not the right place to discuss the man's identity as it can cause disturbance to others, and the Duke surely does not want the place to be noisy. Well, she doesn't even want to make a big deal out of it. A tension between the lady and the Duke is forming, but the man knows very well that it would be difficult to deal with the evil dragon in the labyrinth. Their pairing is unexpected to him, and all he sees are dangers and threats. But it seems like there would not be any trouble to be caused by the dragon, so he chooses to let them go. For now. This smells like trouble for the future. As the Justice leaves them, he sighs in relief. It was a nerve-wracking situation for her. However, the man beside her is just smiling. How can he smile at her situation? Well, she just protected him by confronting the Duke, and it is enough to make his heart happy. His appreciation draws him closer to her, enclosing their gap, promising that in return, he would protect her at all costs, even if it would cost him his entirety. But before the space is gone, the MC announces the start of the auction. It's time. They divert their attention to Appel, who is anxiously presenting his invention, the scroll. With a bead of sweat on his forehead, he explains his innovation, a paper that when torn enables magic to a person even if he's not a wizard. Everybody is intrigued and at the same time hesitant about this product. How could it be possible for one to possess magic in such ways? Could it be a scam? Everything is going according to Ciela's plan, even the part where everyone doubts the invention. Of course, they are prepared to let the people experience the scroll firsthand. Marquise Wilhelm, a person who doesn't believe in magic, volunteers to test the product. As the Marquise receives the scroll, he makes it clear to the inventor the consequences. If ever it is a scam, it would be hell for him. With nothing but doubt, he tears the scroll, and behold, fire emerges from his hand seemingly out of nowhere. Everyone, especially the Marquise, is surprised by what they've seen. The power of the scroll is real. Instantly, everyone has a change of heart, demanding to possess a scroll. Their personal demands are becoming chaotic. He immediately redirects them to Lady Ciela, the sponsor of the merchant. They crowd over her, all demanding to be served first. After a very hectic day, Ciela is with Ray by the balcony. He's congratulating her for the huge success of her business. Instead of acknowledging it as her own success, she thanks him for solving the formula instantly in his cutest form, a description he denies as a man. Her teasing dies down, and he bravely asks for her answer to his question before. He carefully extends his arm, inviting her for a dance, which Ciela gladly accepts. After all, there is no reason for her to decline a hand that is gently offered to her. His request before was for her to dance with him during her happiest moment, a request so pure and lovely. They sway with the soft melody of the music, being one with the rhythm. Their dance is pure bliss, a comforting appreciation of each other. How soothing it is to have someone who can be a great support. As they dance, he takes her necklace off. She is happy, genuinely. They are so cute. Please let them be happy together always. At the Imperial's consort palace, the Empress's helper reports the uproar caused by the scroll's announcement. The Empress seems to be calm about it, expressing her interest in the biggest sponsor for its development, Ciela Labyrinth. The lady's name has surely become popular among the nobles who are trying to catch her attention. This seems to be a problem. As the Summer Star Award is fast approaching, the Empress is more likely to choose Lady Puratina as the Summer Star, as she often spends time with her, but Ciela seems to make it hard. But behold, the Empress actually favors the current situation more. Contrary to her helper's imagination, she likes Ciela to be the Summer Star. She was only holding her decision to give the award to Lady Labyrinth because there was still no reason for it. But it seems like the lady herself is making her own path. The Empress has been eyeing the lady for quite some time already. Well, she is originally meant to be a bridge to connect the Crown Prince and Lady Puratina, but the lady is still childish and foolish. But the intention of the Empress is not pure. To her, having Lady Labyrinth on her side would mean the Crown Prince losing his mind and becoming the evil dragon. This would definitely lead to his dethronement, a chance for the second prince to take the throne. The question reigns, is Ciela a fool to choose love or a smart lady who will choose power? Geez, give your evilness a break, lady! On the other hand, Ciela is back in the guild's headquarters. Everyone missed her presence, to which she greeted shortly. She walked straight to the door, only to see Liether slumped in his desk unmoving. Is he dead? She rushes to him with great concern, shaking him aggressively, only to hear long sentiments of complaints, but his mood shifts when Ciela mentions the salary raise she's planning to give him. He is, again, loyal. As part of his duties, he hands her an exclusive list that will surely make her happy. The list of Summer Star candidates with her name on it. Surely everything is coming her way. Or is it? The Summer Star is a prestigious award given to the lady with the greatest contribution to the Empire in a year. But the criteria for this contribution is unbeknownst to anyone, as it is the Empress herself to evaluate the candidates. Therefore, ladies try to attract the attention of the esteemed Empress by any means. Lady Labyrinth arrives at the palace with high hopes of receiving the award, but apart from that, discomfort spreads throughout her body when she sees Lady Poratina. She knows they are bound to meet, but her feelings cannot be helped. Tyrael approaches her to congratulate her and initiate a small talk. But it seems like her purpose is not just to congratulate her. She suddenly changes the topic to what happened in the past. Starting to shed tears, she then apologizes to Ciela. She is definitely making a scene. Her show of vulnerability does not end there. She hugs Lady Labyrinth with her tear-stained face. Her act may be sincere for others who are watching, but do not be deceived by such an act. As she deceitfully hugs the lady, she whispers her evilness and how she easily manipulates people's viewpoints. Ugh, she is so two-faced. This does not surprise the Lady of Labyrinth. She knew all along how a little good deed can change perceptions they have for you. Perhaps a little act can make up a good reputation. Tyrael is now being called by the Empress, but before she goes, she makes it clear to Ciela that she and the Empress have been spending time with each other. The only statement that makes her hope to be the Summer Star waver. The Empress must have chosen already, and it will be the Lady of Poratina. After all, it is only beneficial for the Empress to choose Tyrael to have someone who can take control of the Crown Prince through purification. It is like a game over. All are gathered as they wait for the Empress, the announcement of the Summer Star happening. The Empress appears to look so sweet and kind, like she cannot do anything wrong. She starts with her expression of gratitude for the ladies that are gathered. All ladies are notably amazing, having incomparable virtue and wisdom, but only one can receive the Summer Star Award, and it is none other than Ciela, the Lady Labyrinth. She is in shock and elated of the results, and she receives a little gift from the Empress. She has also been invited for tea with her, which makes the other ladies envy her. But her joy abruptly stops as an eerie discomfort airs. Something is not right. Even more when Tyrael gives her a weird smile that sends shivers down her spine. The aftermath of the announcement is having a flock of people congratulating and trying to acquaint with her. But despite the business at hand, the eerie smile Tyrael still lingers in her mind. What could be the meaning of it? As she is leaving, she is oriented that she will be invited by the Empress for tea. Upon leaving, she takes a look at the place and sees that the Empress and Tyrael are together. Confusion boggles her mind once more. What are they planning? Is the result of the Summer Star already in her favor? Or perhaps chaos is bound to happen? Her travel heading home is quiet, but her mind is screaming entangled thoughts. The Empress's involvement will change the preconceived future of before. She needs to be cautious. She needs to find a way. Her rival is well given attention, and it does not go past the servants with her gloomy aura and bluish mood. All she wants is rest. With thoughts running wildly and anxiety creeping within her, she is drained. As she enters her room, all she can do is plop down on the floor, but she has to be strong. It is not time to show fear. While in the middle of her distress, a little dragon flies towards her. Ray! He immediately hugs her, sending warmth to her anxiously cold stomach. The warmth of the Lord does not end there. He even massages her to release the tension that's building up. She shares her burdens and what happened earlier. However, he is unable to respond to her as he cannot find any writing material. His desire to converse with her is visible, hence she offers him to change in his human form. He is hesitant, but she is pleading, and a pleading Ciela is not something he can ignore. Upon his transformation, he lands on top of her. Awkward as it may seem, but it does not bother them. All they want is to express themselves. Sadness washes over them as they both know that their contract is no longer effective. The foreseen growth of the Luminous will give her parents a hard time pressuring him to re-engage. What happens to them then if they're no longer bound by their agreement? All she can think about is ending the contract right now. However, she does not intend for their relationship to end, but rather let their feelings grow. Feelings that are already rooted even without a contract. She then asks him if he's willing to stay with her still. The Crown Prince gives her a warm embrace and professes that he will always stay by her side. OMG, they're making progress! On the other hand, a voice celebrating a new lady can be heard from a box. A voice coming from the gift given by the Empress. It's pleading to be freed, but its offer is quite intriguing. Can it really see the past and the future? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!